Hey guys, this is a video I've been wanting to make for a little while. This video is going to be unscripted and might be a little bit rambly, but there's a lot I want to say about my favorite game, Dark Age of Camelot. And if you're here because of Dark Age of Camelot, then welcome. You know, it's one of the best games ever made in my opinion, and it's seeing a little bit of a resurgence in 2026, particularly with the Eden server, which is fantastic by the way. And if you're looking to get back into the game, you should definitely check that out. For now, though, I'm going to be playing on the Blackthornne server, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that as we get going as well. For now, though, I'm just going to log into a character I've made and run around, and we'll talk about some things. So, just to talk a little bit about my journey, I recently got back into playing the Dark Age of Camelot free shards, and I started off playing on Uthgard. Now, why did I pick Uthgard? I'm a very old school player. I started playing in 2001, literally day one of Dark Age. We were really big EverQuest players, and when Dark Age came out, we were just all about it. And I ended up playing that game till this day, right? And, I saw Uthgard as the classic server, and I was like, oh, I want to check out the game kind of as it was back then, right? So I log on to Uthgard and I make a few characters and I make a couple videos playing around. But there really isn't much of a population on Uthgard, and for this kind of game, you really do need other players, and I'll get into why and all that a little bit later. But Uthgard didn't really have the population to sustain somebody who wants to play the way I do. So I checked out Eden recently, and I made a video where I made a little high elf or elf champion named Helcaraxe, and I leveled up kind of the old school way, where I just played with killing monsters and just grinding up the traditional way. I didn't do the quests or anything like that. And it was pretty slow, but I had a good time because a lot of items were dropping, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But getting all of these different items felt really good, and like my character was getting to be powerful. But I decided I wanted to check out the server kind of for everything it has to offer. So I made an armsman and on Alb, and I leveled to 50 through the battlegrounds. I constantly had a group, and I very quickly got level 50. I was level 50 within a day, right? And I had a really good time doing it. And I got to experience all the in-game PvE content that the server really has to offer, right? I did my epic quests, I got my champion levels, my champion weapons, I did Care City, I killed dragons, I did Summoner's Hall raids, and I ended up doing a lot of RVR as well in the Zerg format, right? Because I'm old and I can't do 8 versus 8 anymore, unfortunately. I'm just not good enough anymore. But I had a really good time on Eden. But my whole time playing it, I really kind of felt like something was missing from my gameplay. Again, Eden is a fantastic server, and there is a ton of players on there right now. And if you want to see Dark Age Camelot alive in 2026, like go play Eden. Like you will be amazed at how many people are on there. It's incredible. But again, I felt like something was missing from what I enjoy. And I decided to look around a little bit to see if there was maybe anything between Uthgard and Eden, right? Like with a little bit more PvE focus, but it still had that end game content that I'm looking for, like RVR. And I found out about Blackthornne, and I read about this server, and it looks really interesting. It's currently in beta. It is not released officially yet, right? But you can check it out and play in the beta. And it's really focused on the classic old school Dark Age. It actually uses the old town models, like the old town layouts, the old town models. Camelot, Your Time, and Turnanog are all the original classic versions of them, so there's no weird mix and match versions, right? But it's actually having a great time, and it has a lot of quality of life. So if I type BT map here, this is like kind of the quest map, and if I had a quest, it would show me kind of where on this beautifully hand-drawn kind of map, like where it would be, like what is a heat map of where this would be. And this really helps you to familiarize yourself and figure out where to go. You also get XP for exploring the world. Like as you find new places, kind of like in WoW, you'll get little XP bonuses for exploring. There's also a new crafting UI here, which is really cool. You can see all the crafting stuff that you have, and it's apparently a really fun and completely different style of crafting than it was on live. So there's a lot of modern UI things that they're implementing into Blackthornne, which I think the game desperately needs. It's a very old game. It's 25 years old, 2001, right? So very old game, and a lot of these modernizations are going to make it a little bit more fun for people to check out. Part of the problem with getting people into Dark Age is it's pretty overwhelming. Whenever you're playing Eden, for example, people are throwing out slang and vernacular all over the place, the acronyms, things like this. You don't really know what any of it means. Like, there's so many esoteric terms that we use in Dark Age of Camelot that just don't mean anything to people who never played it before, and people don't explain it. It's like, do you know what go to Ulf means as a random new Albion player? Like, do you know Ulfwich is a place you can teleport to? Like, you may not, right? And if people don't explain it, you don't know what's going on, and it can be very frustrating. So this server aims to kind of peel everything back and be a little bit less complex and allow people to basically first timers or casuals to really kind of get their footing in the game and have a good time with classic PvE content with the same RVR that you would expect, right? So if you don't know how combat is supposed to work in this game, we don't really do it the way it's supposed to work anymore, but the way it was originally designed was you would have a tank. So if you're familiar with the Holy Trinity, it's the Holy Trinity, right? Like you would have a tank that's holding aggro, a healer who is supporting the tank, and then damage dealers who are doing damage to the monster, right? And this combination gains in power not linearly, but it gets much, much, much more powerful as you have these three characters working together. You can take on really difficult monsters, right? And it's really fun that way. Another really important thing of Dark Age's design that's kind of been lost to time is a lot of classes have. So, for example, if you're playing like a mercenary class, this is what we call a light tank, and it has positional styles that come from the side or from behind or whatever. And they have long chains that, you do the first one, then the second one, then the third one, and they gain in power as you keep doing them. Well, people don't really need to do this stuff anymore because players have gotten so powerful that you really don't need to employ any strategy or tactics in normal PvE. And I think most people who play this game are going to say that's good. I don't want to do PvE in Dark Age of Camelot. I'm here for RVR. That's all I want. And I can totally respect that position. I think it's a fair position. It's one I disagree with, but I think it's fair. Because, oh, 1 second, I messed up my weapon there. It's one I disagree with because I think the PvE in this game is actually very good and interesting if we were to engage with it correctly. And I know it's not for everybody, but this is just, my opinion, my feelings, whatever, right? Like you're free to disagree and I'm not going to try to take that away from you. But actually trying to engage with the content in the intended way where we care a lot about group composition of classes, the balance of how many tanks we have, how many damage dealers we have, trying to build optimized groups to overcome challenges that are actually challenging, right? Like they're actually interesting to do and give rewards that are equal to the challenge, right? Like that actually sounds really fun to me. As an old EverQuest player, I've grown, I really do like dungeon crawling. I like playing with other players. I like Holy Trinities, and I like everybody having a role that they're able to do well and contribute to the success of the group. And as I've kind of alluded to, Dark Age doesn't do that very well for a couple of reasons. One of the main reasons is all of the gear that you have access to in this game on a server like Eden is incredibly powerful. And the gear that you have access to on a server like Uthgard is practically non-existent. So let's talk about the idea of like, what is a party in a game like this, right? So a party can just be just you, or it can be up to 8 players, right? So how do we increase the power of that party? Well, if I'm the solo party, I have 2 avenues of increasing my power. I can get more gear to make my character more strong, able to kill monsters that I otherwise couldn't do, or I can add other players to the party in order to have the combination of our skills and our play style increase the power level of the party, right? And if you don't have gear, then you need other players. You just do. Like if these slots are empty, like the way monsters hit in this game is they're going to hit the slot. They're going to hit your torso or your arm or your hand or your foot. And if you don't have anything in that slot, you're really just going to get tore up really fast, and it's not very fun. So if we give ourselves a lot of gear to make our character more powerful, that's going to push us up on this power curve relative to the monsters, such that we're going to be able to kill them. If we can't get the gear and we add another player, then we're able to do slightly more difficult monsters and split the experience, and we worked together to accomplish a goal. So if you're playing on a server like Uthgard, we're really not going to have much in the way of gear, and our character is going to be weaker than the expected power curve on compared to the monsters, right? Because we're not able to find gear. Random items don't seem to drop nearly as much, and there aren't other players to play with to make up for this deficit. So we have this really big problem on a server like Uthgard. And I'm not going to get into why that server doesn't have a population that's, you know, big enough to sustain that kind of gameplay. That's neither here nor there. So on a server like Eden, your power level is very high with the gear. The game really does kind of throw gear at you very quickly. You very quickly get above the power curve of the enemy monsters, and you're able to just solo things like crazy very efficiently. You do not need to rely on players pretty much at all, and it takes a lot of the skill and strategy out of the game. And I know a lot of people will be thinking, what do you mean skill in PvE? Well, like, I get that. Like, you know, it doesn't, it's not the hardest thing in the world, but it could be more fun. It could be closer to an EverQuest or whatever, because this game has so many unique interactions and abilities and ways for players to build their groups and all these kinds of things, that it could be better than what it is, and it could be more rewarding. And to wrap up on that thought there from Eden, whenever I was playing, I was able to group with other players, and we were very quickly able to just destroy all the monsters. Like, we could just pull like 5 or 6 mobs at a time, just clear the whole camp, and then go turn in our quest, and we were done. And I didn't have to play well. What my class actually was didn't seem to really matter all that much. And again, that's fine for more of an arcade style server where you're trying to just get to 50 in RVR as quickly as possible. That's the game to a lot of people, and that's totally fine. But I think there should be and could be room for another style of play for people who actually enjoy PvE. I mean, so many MMOs come out these days and are like, we're going to make a good MMO with good PvP and good PvE and all this stuff. And it's like, I think Dark Age does have a framework to offer that already. And I think there are some things that we could do to make this more of a reality and more fun for more people. And I think Blackthornne is doing a great job at doing that. They've looked at Uthgard and some of the problems that it has, and they've corrected these problems to smooth out some of the gameplay so that players are able to actually get gear and participate in combat. But it's not so powerful that like all of my stats are like just immediately capped, right? Like, I don't have capped resists. You know, I have some stats that are getting up there, but you know, not nearly all of them. My weapons are not great. But I can actually participate with things. And if I wanted, there's a player over here, she and I could play together, and we could probably speed up our killing pretty quickly if I wasn't trying to make a video and trying to focus, right? So when you look at all the things available to classes in this game and their power and all these kinds of things, like, there are a lot of interesting game design decisions that they have done for these characters. Like, if you're playing a warrior, you have positional styles, and you have taunts, and you have shield styles, and you can spec more into shield, more into parry. You could be more defensive or more offensive depending on how you build your character. The realm ability system, as you get more RAs, allows you to really start to specialize your character. And if you were more interested in PvE, you could spec your RAs into things that benefit that, right? Or you could go really heavily into, you know, RVR as well, and that's totally fine. But all the different character combinations and their different specs and what they bring to groups, I mean, there's a lot. Like, you can have characters that could just specialize really heavily in damage, like a wizard or a theurgist. They're just focusing on damage, or they could focus on utility to bring stuff like pulsing blade turns, which really change a lot of how you're trying to interact with monsters, how much other kind of utility or support you need to bring. There are characters like a healer that can specialize in healing or buffs or crowd control effects, which is, you know, crowd control is one of the things Dark Age does pretty much better than any other game, right? But, you know, being able to specialize your character to do specific things is one of the greatest advantages this game really does have to offer. Like, but so often when we play this game specifically, we don't ever seem to care about PvE. We pretty much completely ignore it, because I'm really not sure why. I personally really enjoy the PvE, but I feel like for most people, there's just not enough of a tangible reward for them to do it. Like, leveling up just isn't very fun, maybe, or the gear that they acquire just isn't very good, or some other reason they just don't find it satisfying. But I think if the group play were actually better, if it were more rewarding, and if you actually had a good time doing it, I think more people would do it. And, you know, personally, that's what I enjoy. I really do like PvE, and I know right now I'm just running around killing monsters, right? Like not actually paying that much attention. But as you get higher in level, and if we increased the demand on like what players kind of needed to do, I think it would just be more fun and more engaging. And I think there is a big enough community out there to enjoy that kind of PvE content. I'm not saying it's for everybody, and I don't ever expect this server that I'm playing on right now to be like 10,000 people strong, right? Like, I don't think that'll ever be the case. And that's no offense to them. It's just a smaller group of players who are actually interested in PvE content. But for those of us who are, there are several problems with the way Dark Age handles its combat, and I'll talk about some of them now. So if I'm higher level than the monster that I want to fight, I have a much easier time being able to kill it. It's just the way the scaling works in this game. Like, you're going to be significantly advantaged at level 8 killing a level 5 than if you were level 5 killing a level 8. Like, the higher level monster would just destroy you in that situation, right? Because it's doing more damage, it has way more health, your chance to hit is lowered. All these kinds of things compound together just to make your character have a really hard time engaging with these kinds of monsters. And I don't want to aggro this cat here. So, maybe the solution, and I'm not going to pretend I know the exact answer right now, but maybe the solution is to make monsters have maybe more health, but do a little bit less damage, so you could have more time to interact with them. So you have more time to do positional styles and crowd control and debuffs and things like that. That's something that EverQuest did really well for a time, where monsters were able to survive long enough to justify interacting with them in these interesting ways, putting up a slow, putting up a long duration dot, debuffing them, and the similar like that. Like, these are actually things that pay dividends because they increase the likelihood of killing the monster quite significantly, actually. And in Dark Age, that's really just not the case. When I was playing on Eden, and again, this could be custom and I'm just not familiar anymore, but the way it seemed to work there was we're going to pull a monster and it's going to die basically immediately, and if the devs want it to be hard, it's going to be hitting my armsman for like 1200 damage, right? Like, and that's not reasonable for like just a normal group to be able to engage with. It's not something you can really strategize against. It's not like there are debuffs or strategies to employ that make this actually more enjoyable or entertaining. It's just, well, we need to bring another tank in case you die, or whatever. Like, it's more bodies usually solves the problem, as opposed to more careful strategies, more clever strategies, because things just kind of scale too much in the damage. I'm actually going to die here because I wasn't paying attention, which is hilarious. But things seem to just scale a little bit too much into the damage direction, as opposed to just more health and more time to actually interact with the content. It's a bit of a shame I'm going to die. I hate dying in this kind of game, but I just ran right into this dude. That's hilarious. But yeah, I do think Blackthornne has an opportunity here and I think they're doing a lot here right already, but I think they have a really strong opportunity to really refine the PvE content, to try to attract PvE players from other games. I really don't feel you're ever going to super appeal to the person who's been playing Dark Age of Camelot for 25 years. Like, to them, most of them have been playing Dark Age for that long, and they're only interested in RVR. Like, they've done all the PvE they ever want to do. Most of them leveled up to 50 back in, way back in the day. They don't ever want to do it again. They have pretty bad memories because, I mean, it used to take like 9 months to level up. Like, it was really slow back in the day. And I think a lot of people are scarred from that. And another thing is, I know people who are playing on Eden right now, and some of the complaints they have about their character, this is like their first time playing it in 20 years. Some of the complaints they have about the character is like, well, I'm pretty much engaging with all the monsters from level 1 to 50 like the same way. Like, nothing's really changing. I'm just casting the same spells. I'm using the same tactics. And the real secret sauce, I guess you could say, of Dark Age is, as opposed to EverQuest, whenever you level up more and you get more and more abilities, like a shaman at level 24 gets regrowth, and then at level 32 you get canny, and it changes the way your character literally plays. Dark Age changes based on the composition of your group and the way that you're wanting to engage with monsters, right? Like, oh, we got a source of power regeneration, so we're going to be a little more happy with the nukes. Or, oh, we don't have that, and there might be bigger adds, so I need to make sure that I, as a wizard, save my mana so I can blow things up if we get extra adds that we didn't expect. Things like that are really where the game starts to change. It's not so much your class changes, it's how you use the class to interact with your group that changes. And I just, I really think Dark Age, it needs to be looked at. The PvE definitely needs to be looked at in a different way than how it's been done on all the free shards for the last however many years, where it's basically an afterthought. I think there are a lot of players out there who would enjoy playing PvE content. I think they would enjoy leveling up their character, discovering the world, making friends and memories like we used to do back in the day. And I think that, it could just be done a lot better. And I think Blackthornne's really trying to do that. And I really think you should definitely give them a check out whenever you get a chance. And if none of that interests you, you should definitely check out Eden, because it's an amazing server and it's really, really, really fun. And I'm having a great time doing it. But I want something a little bit more long term personally, where I can invest the time into mastering my character and making friends and accomplishing really difficult content and all these kinds of things. So this has been a pretty rambly video. So if you've made it this far, thanks for going on a journey with me. And I'm going to continue making videos here on Blackthornne because it's been a really good time for me. And hopefully I'll see you guys here and we can play together. So take care, guys. Bye.